Welcome to the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. Today, we are streaming for the Dynasty Overload, a fantasy podcast where we talk all things Dynasty and mixed in with a little bit of redraft. So if you have redraft questions, if you have waiver wire questions, all those things, you are more than welcome to ask them in the comment section, and we will definitely get back to you guys. So week 2 is over with. We saw lots of different things this past week, good and bad. Man, we got Chef Dre Boogie in the building, man. Was good. Appreciate you hopping on the stream. We're going to talk week 2, and we're going to talk waiver wire pickups towards the end of the show. This is going to be about a 35 to 40-minute show. So if you guys missed anything, definitely go back to the beginning and catch the show. But you're just right in time. So let's get into it. So we got some big news. Patrick Mahomes finally got a new contract, and I believe it's, $218 million for the next 4 years. So pretty much what they've done is they've voided out the last, 6 years of his contract, because it's a 10-year contract, which is going to be starting. So now it's a 4-year contract for $218 million. When you average it out, it's right around $52 million a year, which puts Patrick Mahomes up there with the rest of these QBs that have been getting paid. When these QBs started getting paid, I said to myself, man, this is not good for Patrick Mahomes. You know, he's going to be on the bottom of a lot of these different guys. So Patrick Mahomes got his money. And also Nick Chubb, gruesome injury last night on Monday Night Football. It was tragic, and it was sad, man. But we are talking fantasy football. Injury is a part of the game. Prayers up to Nick Chubb and his family, hoping for a speedy recovery. One of the better backs in the league. And the thing with running backs is that they continue to get hurt. I'm going to give my takes on running backs in just a minute. But, yeah, it's a knee injury, and Nick Chubb will be out for the season. Jerome Ford stepped in and played well. Now, is Jerome Ford the guy moving forward? We're going to talk about all this and more throughout the show. So Chef Dre Boog has a question. He says, looking for some RBs. I have Pitts and Dalton Schultz. Should I try for Kareem Hunt and Ford? Absolutely. If Jerome Ford is available in your waivers, you put in a claim. If you're playing Fab, I would say pay half of your Fab for a guy like Jerome Ford. Now, granted, Kareem Hunt is visiting Cleveland today. He's visiting. But think about it this way. Kareem Hunt was in Cleveland, couldn't get anything done. Yes, Kareem Hunt is a big part of that. But at the same time, they tried to trade away Kareem Hunt. It just couldn't work. Even when guys like Chubb missed the game or whatever the case may be, Kareem Hunt still didn't produce at a high clip. So I don't know how this reunion works out. It's like going back to your ex. Is it going to work? Who knows? It may not work. It's a 50-50 chance that it works and a 50-50 chance that it doesn't work. So Kareem Hunt is a guy that you can pick up off waivers. He will be free. He will be cheap. So that's the good part about getting a Kareem Hunt. On the flip side, with a Jerome Ford, let's say that Kareem Hunt doesn't sign, Jerome Ford has a chance to be a top 24 back the rest of the way. And with most nights, most days, if he gets a touchdown, because it's going to be touchdown dependent. If he gets a touchdown, he'll be, right around 20 points, right around an RB1 on certain weeks when he does get the volume. The good thing is, even though Cleveland is struggling offensively, they have a really good run offense. So it just bodes well for a guy like Jerome Ford. So, again, absolutely great question. If you can trade, let's say you can trade, says I'm looking for some running back. So if you can trade a guy like Dalton Schultz, you do it. If you can trade a guy like Kyle Pitts, you do it, because Kyle Pitts would definitely buy you a Jerome Ford. Kyle Pitts has done nothing so far, so it's not like he's producing. Now, he has the upside to produce, but we've been waiting for 2 years. Outside of the rookie year for Kyle Pitts, he hasn't really done much, right? So how can we really even trust a Kyle Pitts? If you can trade a Kyle Pitts for a guy like Jerome Ford, you go ahead and do it. Like, what's the risk? We have seen Jerome Ford score 20 points in a game in this short season so far. We haven't seen Kyle Pitts score anywhere near 15 points so far, right? So, yeah, definitely make that kind of deal if you can. Now, I'm going to get into each game individually and give my analysis of each game and my thoughts and, how the games went, what happened, what I liked, what I didn't like, how does this impact the dynasty, how does it impact fantasy in general, and then on top of that, what can be done to fix some of these situations with all these different RBs that are getting hurt. That's why when RBs are now trying to get paid, you cannot be mad at them. But at the same time, with running backs, the NFL does not value running backs, right? So if the NFL don't value running backs, I don't value running backs in fantasy. And this is what I mean. I try to get my running backs as cheap as I can. What I normally do is I get the wide receivers that I know are going to get volume, the Jamar Chase, the Justin Jeffersons of the world, some of these premier top tier guys, right, in the league. So what I do is I go ahead and get those guys, and then towards the end, I'm getting all my different handcuffs, the cheap guys. Like Ryan Robinson Jr. was so cheap in drafts this year, and he's the running back 3 in fantasy right now. If I give you guys the rankings of where people are ranked right now, it would blow your mind. It would blow your mind. Brian Robinson is tearing it up right now, even in a small sample size. Brian Robinson has 3 touchdowns so far this season, and I believe that he can actually keep this up because this offense looks good under Eric Bieniemy, so that's great. So let's go ahead and start off with the first game, which was last Thursday, which was the Vikings and the Eagles. Was a pretty exciting game. You had points all over the field. You had Kirk Cousins with 364 yards, 4 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins is a QB1 this year. He's a top 12 QB, and he's always been. Kirk Cousins is him, especially when it comes to fantasy. Alexander Mattison, I told you guys I was out on him. He had 8 carries for 28 yards last week, and I don't even know what he's going to do this week. He does have a better matchup, but Alexander Mattison, from what people are saying, is you can hold him. For me, I've been trading Alexander Mattison. I've been getting this guy off my team, especially in Dynasty. Justin Jefferson just does what Justin Jefferson does. But a guy that we need to give credit to is Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison continues to perform at a high clip. This game, he had what was it? 3 catches, 72 yards, and a score. Jordan Addison, man, he's pretty good. TJ Hawkinson tore it up, 7 receptions, 66 yards, and 2 touchdowns. If you're playing in a tight end premium, that bodes well for you. For those of you guys that are still hanging on hope for a guy like KJ Osborne, keep hanging on hope because who knows? He might perform for you at some point. But for me, I'm not messing with KJ Osborne. And that offense is just too many mouths to feed, but Kirk Cousins was able to spread the ball with 4 touchdowns. On the flip side, Jalen Hurts, 193 yards, 1 score, 1 INT. But the biggest news of the day was DeAndre Swift with 28 carries, 175 yards, and a score. I wasn't a believer of DeAndre Swift. I wasn't sure what DeAndre Swift could do. I'm not going to lie to you, but DeAndre Swift proved me wrong. A lot of times I might not know what I'm saying, but I have a reason for everything that I say. We have not seen DeAndre Swift being used to this capacity. It took for Kenneth Gainwell to be out. It took for Bart Scott to be concussed, right? For him to kind of get this kind of game, and he played well. I mean, he put up, 27 plus points in fantasy. He looked good. But the question is, can DeAndre Swift keep this going? For me, I'm selling high. For anybody who believes in DeAndre Swift, for these DeAndre Swift stands out there, you want to trade DeAndre Swift to those guys if you're not feeling DeAndre Swift. I love him. I love the talent. I just don't know if he can be used effectively. Once Kenneth Gainwell comes back, Rashad Penny's in the mix, Bart Scott, you got 4 backs. Who is going to be the guy? That Eagles offense, especially running the ball wise, is going to be confusing. And it was also surprising to see Swift get goal line carries and even touchdowns because they have a goal line back in Jalen Hurts who steals all the touchdowns. He's just like Anthony Richardson, right? These are the guys that kind of go for the touchdowns because they have that skill set. So it's kind of scary. But on the flip side, on the passing game for Devontae Smith had 4 receptions, 131 yards, and a score. It's going to be hard for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to both go off in the same week that the Eagles have pretty good running. So you can't have it all. Eagles ran for 259 yards total, right? They passed the ball for 193 yards. The running was working. Minnesota could not stop anybody. They parted like the Red Sea. And it just is what it is, right? So that was the game that I wanted to kick things off. Let's go ahead and go into that Vegas versus Buffalo game. It wasn't even a contest. The Buffalo Bills looked great in every single facet, man. These guys were tearing it up. They were destroying the Raiders. Jimmy G didn't have a good game. He had a solid game last week, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. This week, under 200 yards, 185 to be exact, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He wasn't sacked not one time, but he could not move the ball. He wasn't effective. The Raiders couldn't even run the ball. The guy that ran the ball well was Trey Tucker, a wide receiver who happens to run for 34 yards on 1 carry. Zamir Smith, 4 carries, 22 yards. Josh Jacobs, 9 carries for -2 yards. What is going on with Josh Jacobs? Josh Jacobs was amazing last year. Do you sell Josh Jacobs? Do you hold Josh Jacobs? I'm not going to tell you what to do with Josh Jacobs. Trust your gut. But if you can find that guy that's going to give you huge value, and let's say you flip Josh Jacobs for 2 running backs, or you flip him for 2 assets, you go ahead and you do it, because at the end of the day, we play fantasy football to win, right? Unless you're playing Dynasty. Even in Dynasty, some guys like to build for years and years and years and years. I might build for 2 years in Dynasty. After a while, I have to attack this championship, because you play to win. You play to win the game. You don't play just to play it, right? A wise coach once said that, right? So Devontae Adams came back to life. He was really good. 6 receptions, 84 yards in the score. Josh Jacobs did contribute in the passing game, 5 receptions, 51 yards. So that is encouraging. But with the game without Jacoby Myers, this team really struggled. Jacoby Myers was the glue last week. Michael Mayer has been nowhere to be found, so that's a wait-and-see approach with him. Hunter Renfrow, in a game that you think he will get more targets, he'll do well. No Jacoby Myers. This guy had 1 target, 1 catch, 23 yards. So it's safe to say that Hunter Renfrow is off of the fantasy football grid. I'm never going to start him. I'm never going to roster him again. On the flip side, with Buffalo, Josh Allen played well, 274 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 to Gabe Vincent, 1 to Khalil Shakir, and 1 to Dawson Knox. And shout out to Gabe Davis, 6 receptions, 92 yards. But of course, Stephon Diggs still got his, because he's him. 7 receptions, 66 yards, no score. But Stephon Diggs is always going to get you around 11 to 13 points, even on his low days. If you guys are coming in, please like it up. Please subscribe if you haven't, and please share. Appreciate you guys. Now, the star of the show, the biggest shock, the biggest breakout game to me was James Cook. 17 carries, 123 yards. That was amazing. That was amazing coming out of James Cook. So that was pretty good. Next game I want to go over is the Bengals. Now, there is more news coming out that Joe Burrow could miss Monday night's game. But on the flip side as well, Joe Burrow could be put on IR. Do not be shocked. Let this not come as a surprise if you see Joe Burrow being put on the IR. It possibly could happen, because he re-aggravated his calf injury, and, I mean, it's bad. You need your legs to throw the ball. You just don't throw the ball with your arms or your shoulders, your body. You need your legs to plant and all that good stuff. And if he happens to miss some games, Jake Browning is his direct backup, right? So if you're playing in 2 quarterback leagues, go scoop you some Jake Browning. He's going to be a guy that you can get for free. Not a lot of guys are going to put in claims for him, even in Dynasty, even in Superflex leagues. Go get you some Jake Browning. But when you look at the game, Joe Burrow wasn't too spectacular. He was okay. He played well enough. He threw the ball 41 times, completed 27 for 222 yards, 2 scores, 1 INT, was sacked 1 time, lost 6 yards on that. Joe Mixon has been very average, 13 carries for 59 yards, no score. T. Higgins, welcome to the NFL this season. I haven't seen T. Higgins. I know you guys haven't seen T. Higgins. 8 receptions, 89 yards, 2 scores. Jamar Chase is still nowhere to be found. Targeted 8 times, 5 receptions for 31 yards. That is not enough. A lot of you guys, including me, drafted Jamar Chase in the first round of your redraft, and he has not produced to the level that we are accustomed to seeing Jamar Chase produce. Now, Bengals are now 0-2. They're playing, I believe, is it the Titans on Sunday? I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who they're playing on Sunday. No. Titans play Cleveland. I can't remember who the Cleveland, I think they're playing the Rams. I think it's the Rams on Monday night, and that's going to be a tough game because Stafford has been throwing the ball pretty well. But back to the team that won. The Baltimore Ravens won this game 27-24. Lamar Jackson had a good game, 237 yards passing, 2 scores. Gus Edwards, if you guys are looking for a running back, grab you some Gus Edwards. He had 10 carries, 62 yards, and a score. If you guys remember last week, I told you guys, Gus Edwards over Justice Hill. I told you guys, and I hope you guys listen to me. Gus Edwards is the better back. It just happened to be that last week, Justice Hill got 2 goal line carries that boosted his points, right? On top of that, Lamar ran the ball 12 times for 54 yards. So overall, Ravens ran the ball well as a team for 178 yards. Aguilar was the star of that receiving core with 5 receptions, 63 yards, and a score. Zay Flowers had 1 less reception with with 4, and then one less yard with 62, no score. Mark Andrews was 5 for 45 in a score. So I'm glad to see Mark Andrews back in it. If you've lost OBJ or if you believed in OBJ or whatever the case may be, OBJ is out with an injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out. I don't trust him right now. Rashad Bateman pretty much put up a goose egg, 3 receptions, 18 yards. So it's time to start thinking that maybe Rashad Bateman isn't that good. But Aguilar stepped up. Zay Flowers is going to be the guy that commands targets from this offense. He was 3rd in targets right after Mark Andrews and Nelson Aguilar. So it's a situation that you want to monitor. Do you really trust Lamar Jackson? I don't, to be honest, but I like Lamar Jackson as a fantasy quarterback, even a real-life quarterback. But in terms of getting his wide receivers open or getting them targets, he's not going to pass the ball like we think he is, right? But let's go ahead and get into this Kansas City Chiefs versus Jacksonville. It looked like a good game on paper. I was thinking points. But, you know, after the Chiefs lost to the Lions, they're pissed off. So they're going to come out and they're going to play well. They were away, went to Jacksonville. The Chiefs scored 17 points only. It scored 17-9. The Chiefs are going to struggle to score points, but Patrick Mahomes is still the man. He had 305 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. As long as they have this guy, he's going to be fine. Pacheco, 12 carries for 70 yards. It seems like Pacheco does a whole lot, but then when you look at the box score at the end, he didn't really do much. 70 yards, man. Like, that's 7 points. That's it. All that work. He had a 31-yard run. I mean, he was going. I'm thinking, man, this guy's going to have a big day. Couldn't get a score to kind of solidify his performance, but 12 carries for 70 yards, 5.8 yards per carry is pretty nice, but not getting that score is just only 7 points. And I'm not even sure if he even had any receptions. He was targeted twice. He caught 1 reception for 0 yards, so that's not good. Patrick Mahomes was able to spread the ball. Sky Moore, 3 for 70. Justin Watson, 3 for 62. Noah Gray caught some. Travis Kelce, 4 for 26 in the score. I'm glad that Travis Kelce scored like Mark Andrews, but man, targeted 9 times, only caught 4. So maybe that injury is still bothering Travis Kelce. The thing about fantasy is that what's good is bad and what's bad is good. I say that we all drafted Travis Kelce high. We're still believing in Travis Kelce. He's going to do some great things. But, man, right now when you need him, it's bad. He's not giving you what he would normally give you because of injury. But then again, you start to lose games. So what do? Sometimes you have to sell players. Sometimes you have to move players. You got to trust your gut. But shout out to Sky Moore for scoring a touchdown. So he had 3 receptions for 70 yards. That's 10 points already in PPR, plus the touchdown, which gives him a total of 16 points. That's solid. That's pretty good flex play. On the flip side, Trevor Lawrence, 216 yards passing, no score. He looked bad. He was sacked 4 times. Travis Etienne couldn't get nothing going. 12 carries, 40 yards. Christian Kirk was the star of the show. He was targeted 14 times. He caught 11 passes for 110 yards. Although he didn't score, that's 22 points, 22 whopping points in PPR setting, PPR stats. PPR setting. So that's good. That's good. So other than that, there was really nothing spectacular. Evan Ingram was serviceable, 6 receptions for 57 yards, especially in tight end premium leagues. That's really, really good for a guy like Evan Ingram. So moving on along, let's go to the Titans and Chargers game. This was a weird game. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, so the fans these guys were up and down, up and down. Justin Herbert had a good game, 305 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Joshua Kelly, right? We all went and scooped them from waivers, but the thing is, the Tennessee Titans have a pretty good rush defense, so you cannot count on a lot of guys going off on the Titans. Now, I believe, who is it? There's a really good waiver wire back that plays the Titans this week, and you want to temper your expectations because he might not perform like you think he is. It's the Browns, and that's Jerome Ford, which will be this week's #1 waiver wire pickup. That's assuming that Kyron Williams is gone. If Kyron Williams is gone, then Jerome Ford is the #1 waiver wire pickup in every single league. And if he's not, you put in a claim and you're #2 and you get your Jerome Ford. That bodes well for you. Now, temper your expectations. Titans do have a good rush defense, so Jerome Ford might end up not doing anything, and you cannot get mad at him. It's not that he's not good or the system isn't good or whatever. First of all, the NFL has gotten more film on Jerome Ford. They're going to take away those things that he does well, and the bulk of his yards came from that 169-yard run that almost resulted in a 70-yard touchdown. So keep that in mind. Keenan Allen had a great game, targeted 10 times, 8 receptions for 111 yards. And then he also had 2 scores. So shout out to Keenan Allen doing Keenan Allen type things. Mike Williams, 8 receptions for 83 yards. Look, Justin Herbert went to his top 2 guys, and that's what you're going to see more and more throughout the season. A guy like Quentin Johnson is not going to get no love unless one of these 2 guys get hurt. Those are the 2 guys that I trust more in this offense, especially with Austin Eckler being out. So with Austin Eckler being out, we don't know how long he's going to be out. Continue to temper expectations with Joshua Kelly. He does have a better matchup this week, so he could be a guy that you might want to start. And then if he's still available in your leagues, which he shouldn't be, you might want to go ahead and scoop him. For the Titans, Tannehill had 246 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown of 12 yards. Tajay Spears continues to be a thing. He ran the ball 8 times for 49 yards. And now he was also involved in a passing game, 2 receptions for 6 yards. That's 2.6 points. So any little reception that any RB can get is great. And it's good to see Tajay Spears getting love. He averaged 6.1 yards per carry, opposed to Derrick Henry, who got 25 carries for 80 yards. This guy got 8 carries for 49 yards. Go figure. Give Tajay Spears more of the ball. I'm not saying that he's better than Derrick Henry. All I'm saying is that he has a role, number 1. And number 2, he's going to bring a different dynamic to this offense. He's a change of pace kind of guy. He's going to end up being the future for that team. Treylon Burks, welcome to the NFL. 3 receptions for 76 yards. And Nick Westbrook-Akina was the one that had that lone touchdown from Ryan Tannehill. That was a pretty good game, back and forth. Titans got the clutch win when it mattered. Let's go to the Green Bay and ATL game. ATL, are they a good team? I don't know, but they're 2-0. They're 2-0. They get a narrow victory, 25-24. Last week, I don't know if I told you guys, but I'm purchasing Tyler Algier in Dynasty for a 2nd-round pick. I do believe that Tyler Algier is going to have a role. And what I mean by that is he got 16 carries for 49 yards. Not great numbers, but guess what? He got 16 carries to Bijan's 19 carries. So they're going to run the ball. They ran the ball 45 times with Desmond Ridder running 10 times. So 45 times running the ball, and you pass the ball 32 times. This is a run-first team. Now, Desmond Ridder had an okay game as a whole. Passing-wise, 237 yards, 1 score, 1 INT. Drake London, welcome to the NFL, 6 receptions, 67 yards, and a score. It was good to kind of see him score. If he didn't score, his numbers wouldn't have been as high. But that's a nice, cool little 18 to 20 points for Drake London. So that's a sight for sore eyes. Now, for Green Bay, they couldn't pass the ball as well in terms of yardage. Jordan Love did have 3 touchdowns. Green Bay really, really played well. This game could have gone either way. A.J. Dillon was ineffective, 15 carries for 55 yards. They need Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is the glue to that team. Dontavion Wicks, 2 receptions, 40 yards. He's one of my dynasty holds, a guy that I'm grabbing in dynasty that is pretty much in my taxi right now with Christian Watson continuing to be out on he's not on IR yet, but he's still hurt. Jaden Reed, he's playing well. 4 receptions, 37 yards, and 2 scores. Jaden Reed is going to be a guy that's going to get more and more targets. He led the team in targets, 8 targets, 4 receptions. So it's encouraging. We all know that if you're looking at Romeo Doubs, if you're looking at anybody else, Jaden Reed is the guy that Jordan Love trusts the most to pass the ball to. Luke Musgrave is a nice young player, but it's going to take him some time to start getting some more targets. So if Jaden Reed is out there in your waivers or in your leagues, put in the claim for Jaden Reed. He's going to be a guy that's going to continue to have a bigger role as the season goes on. And who knows, he might overtake this entire offense as that number 1 wide receiver. Christian Watson is good, but I mean, what has he done to solidify himself as the number 1 wide receiver this year? You can say he had 7 touchdowns last year with Aaron Rodgers, but this is Jordan Love, and he's building chemistry with the guys that are here. Your best ability should be your availability. So if he's not available, how can Jordan Love create a connection with him, right? Now, moving on along, you have the Seattle Seahawks who won a big game, 37-31 versus the Detroit Lions. That was a back-and-forth game right there. Geno Smith, welcome back to the NFL, 328 yards, 2 scores. I heard all of the stuff out there. Geno Smith got paid and he sucks now. Geno Smith this, Geno Smith that. Geno Smith looked good. He looked good, and he has the weapons. Kenneth Walker, okay? 17 carries. Charbonnet, 4 carries. It's been the who's better? Who's going to be the guy? Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet. Charbonnet only had 4 carries. Kenneth Walker is a great running back who just happened to have another guy on his team that was drafted in the second round. Seahawks had no reason drafting Charbonnet. They did, and it just is what it is. Maybe towards the end of the year, Charbonnet gets more burn, more love, but right now it's something Kenneth Walker shows. 17 carries, 43 yards, 2 scores. Those are terrible numbers, 2.5 yards per carry, but at the end of the day, 2 touchdowns is 2 touchdowns. So Kenneth Walker looked good. In general, DK Metcalf is still the alpha of this offense. 6 receptions for 75 yards. Tyler Lockett, 8 receptions for 59 yards and 2 scores. Tyler Lockett had to remind people who he is. Tyler Lockett is the most consistent wide receiver in Seattle history. Maybe the last 5-6 years, it's been Tyler Lockett. He's been that kind of guy. He's a guy that gets you 8 to 10 touchdowns every single year. But why is it that Tyler Lockett is constantly disrespected? Today, he shows you he's averaging 1 touchdown a game. And he's the kind of guy that can end up with double-digit touchdowns when it's all said and done this season. Now, until Lockett leaves or gets traded or something like that happen, then you'll see more of a Jackson Smith and Jigba doing what we think he can do. Right now, he's just kind of getting his feet wet. He's just, trying to come along, him and Charbonnet. But Charbonnet has a better chance of being the guy faster than JSN. That's just my opinion. You guys let me know what you guys think. On the flip side, with the Lions, right, Jared Goff, he's in a good offense. He's producing. He had 323 yards, 3 scores, 1 INT. David Montgomery played well, 16 carries for 67 yards on a score, and then he got hurt. But also, Jahmyr Gibbs, 7 carries, 17 yards. You got Craig Reynolds that's going to be on the waiver. Detroit runs a 2-back system. If not Craig Reynolds, you can get you a Zonovan Knight super cheap, especially in Dynasty. He will go unclaimed in most leagues. Get you a Zonovan Knight, put him on your bench, stash him in Dynasty. In redraft, you might want to go Craig Reynolds. I mean, most redrafts, 5 bench, 6 bench, so there's plenty better options. This is more so for Dynasty. But Amon-Ra St. Brown was targeted 7 times, 6 receptions for 102 yards, no score. Josh Reynolds, we talked about this before the season started. We talked about this in week 1. Josh Reynolds had 5 receptions for 66 yards and 2 scores. He's legit. He has a role in his offense. And even when Jameson Williams comes back, he's going to have to do all he can to overtake Josh Reynolds. He looks really good. He's getting targeted. He's getting touchdowns. He's being an impact. Week 1, he had 4 receptions for 80 yards, and he follows it up with another big game, 5 receptions, 66 yards, and 2 scores. Shout out to Khalif Raymond. But a guy that I'm excited about on this Detroit Lions offense is Sam Laporta. You want to go ahead and get you some Sam Laporta, especially in leagues that you are struggling for tight end help. He's a guy that's consistently giving you 10 to 11 points in PPR. And if it's in tight end premium, he's going to get you way more points. Houston versus Indy. I started Indy's defense a lot just because I didn't trust Houston's offense, and I happened to hit that right. But CJ Stroud had a great game, 384 yards passing, 2 scores. He spread the ball. Dameon Pierce, a lot of you guys were excited about Dameon Pierce. He's not looking too hot right now, 15 carries for 31 yards. I don't know, man. I've never really been a Dameon Pierce fan. I kind of had a little hope this year, but that hasn't worked out. Nico Collins, man, 9 targets, 7 receptions for 146 yards. I was wrong about him. I was wrong about the Houston offense. Yes, it's a small sample size, but at the end of the day, Nico Collins looks good. He looks good. He looks legit. 7 receptions, 146 yards. Robert Woods, he's another guy that's looking good. 9 targets, 6 receptions, 74 yards. He had 10 targets last week. So it seems like Robert Woods is going to be very involved in this Houston offense. And, of course, the most exciting receiver they have, Tank Dell, 5'10", 5'9", very electric. He caught 7 receptions for 72 yards in the score. And it seems like Tank Dell is going to be that number 2 wide receiver while Nico Collins is that number 1. Maybe John Mechie steps in, at some point and starts to get more and more receptions. Michael Pittman was fine just this game for the Colts. He had 12 targets. He caught 8 of those for 56 yards. So it seems like Michael Pittman is going to get his regardless. Will Mallory, if you guys are in Dynasty, he's a guy that I've been targeting pre-rookie draft and all that good stuff. He's a guy that you want to pick up, you stash, and you just kind of wait on. He's a rookie tight end from Miami, very athletic. I love what he brings to the table. Anthony Richardson got hurt. Okay, and that was after scoring 2 rushing touchdowns. His style of play will get him hurt. That's the only knock on these running QBs. Not only that, they want to make Anthony Richardson a weapon, a guy that runs in for goal line carries and things of that nature. You're going to get hurt. By the time that RBs are getting hurt, you're going to get hurt if you use your your quarterback as a running back. He might as well be a running back. But shout out to Zach Moss, 18 carries for 88 yards in the score. He's a guy that you want to target on your waiver wire. Zach Moss looks legit. He got the lion's share of the carries. He had all 18 carries, all the RB carries. Richardson had 3, and then Gardner Minshew had 2. So literally, he had 18 of the 23 carries. Deion Jackson was inactive. Zach Moss got all of the RB work. And if this continues, he could be a solid back the rest of the way. Now, obviously, matchups matter, situations matter. Are you winning or are you losing to even get 18 carries? So look out for Zach Moss on your waiver wires. In Dynasty, I'm paying a 3rd-round pick right now for Zach Moss. You can say that's crazy, but at the end of the day, if I'm desperate for a running back, with all these injuries happening and suspensions and all of Kamara's out, Aaron Jones, it's just a lot going on with the RB landscape, that I am buying certain running backs for certain prices, because at the end of the day, we play to win, right? Now, we got a few more games left, and then we'll go ahead and get into the waiver wire portion of the show. Let's go ahead and hit the Tampa Bay game real quick. Man, Tampa Bay looks great. 27-17 versus the Bears. Baker Mayfield, 317 yards passing, 1 score. Rashad White ran well, 17 carries for 73 yards in the score. And Rashad White also added 5 receptions for 30 yards. So he looked really good with over 21 points in PPR leagues. Baker Mayfield, man, he looks electric. He looks crisp. He was able to feed Mike Evans 8 targets for 6 receptions, 171 yards receiving in 1 score. If you have Chris Godwin, do not be discouraged. He also had 8 targets. He had 5 receptions for 58 yards. Do not be discouraged. Chris Godwin will get his when it's his time. It's just that it's hard for 2 alpha type wide receivers, kind of like the Eagles situation. It's very hard to get both of your top tier wide receivers to produce on the same day. One is usually going to have a better game than the other. One is usually going to get more yards, more targets, more, scoring position, and all that good stuff. So it just happened to be Mike Evans' day for 2 weeks in a row. But I think that Chris Godwin is coming. Do not give up on him, because the minute that you bench him, he goes off. Now, for the Bears offense, I want to highlight DJ Moore. He's targeted 7 times, 6 receptions, 104 yards. His first big game with the Bears. The Bears offense is so bad. Khalil Herbert is so bad. But Roschon Johnson is the guy that you want to keep an eye on. Roschon Johnson will overtake this backfield. Roschon Johnson had 4 carries for 32 yards, 8 yards per carry. He's a guy that deserves more of the ball. Now, he did have a long 29-yard run, but that's what Roschon Johnson can do. I believe that Roschon Johnson is more talented than Khalil Herbert. They both can catch the ball, but if I had to bet my money on it, if both guys got the same amount of touches, give me Roschon Johnson over Khalil Herbert. So he's a guy that's going to be out there on waiver wires, both in redraft. If you see him, you can let waivers clear, you can grab him, and then you can stash him. That's what I would do. So that was it for that game. Let's go ahead and go to the Arizona game and Giants. This game had a lot of fantasy implications. Daniel Jones ended up being the QB1 this Sunday or this week. He had 321 yards. The Giants came back. They were down big. They were down 20-0. These guys came back and won the game. I was amazed. So 31-28. Daniel Jones had 321 yards passing, 2 scores, 1 INT. Not only that, he was able to run the ball effectively 9 times for 59 yards in the score. Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 63 yards in the score, but then he gets hurt. So Matt Breida should be one of the top waiver wire pickups this week. They do play Thursday. Saquon is ruled out. There's no way he can recover in time. Not only that, Saquon could miss 2 to 3 weeks. He could miss 3 to 6 weeks. So there's no timeline so far that has been reported. I'm reading all kinds of different stuff. So you want to plan accordingly. Jalen Hyatt played well, 2 receptions for 89 yards. Darren Waller looked amazing, 6 receptions, 76 yards in PPR and tight end premium. He stepped up. Michael Wilson is a guy that people were wondering who's going to be the guy to catch passes in Arizona. Hollywood Brown did lead in targets with 10, 6 receptions, 54 yards in the score. Zach Ertz did his thing as well. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 56 yards. But Michael Wilson is a name to keep an eye on. Targeted 3 times, caught 3 receptions, 56 yards. Looked really, really good. while Rondale Moore did not look good at all. James Conner looked amazing, 23 carries, 106 yards, and a score. If this team is effective, if they can run block, James Conner could have games like this consistently all season, even with a bad offense. But Joshua Dobbs, man, he had 27 points in fantasy. He ran the ball 3 times for 41 yards on the score. Joshua Dobbs, for those of you guys that picked him up and people laugh, you will get the last laugh because he's going to have games like this to where he's relevant because he's getting a lot of touches, right? So if you get a lot of touches, if you have the ball in your hands and you're doing what you do, sometimes you're going to get lucky. And he got lucky. It just is what it is. San Francisco beat the Los Angeles Rams 30-23. That was an amazing game. It kind of went back and forth. Brock Purdy was unspectacular, just 206 yards. But that's normally what he does. He just gets the touchdowns. He keeps his turnovers down. And overall, he looks great as a NFL QB in terms of winning games. But sometimes stat-wise, he might not give you the stats that you're looking for. He did rush for a touchdown, so that does kind of help his numbers. Deebo Samuels had 5 carries for 38 yards and a score, a running score. Also had 6 receptions for 63 yards. So Deebo was in full-fledged doing his thing. Brandon Ayuk got a scare. He got hurt, came back in the game, finished with 3 receptions for 43 yards. Christian McCaffrey just continues to be him. 20 carries, 116 yards, 1 score, 3 receptions, 19 yards. So Christian McCaffrey has looked good. On the flip side, for the Rams, what's good, Raz, man? Appreciate you hopping on. Just real quick, for the Rams, Kyren Williams, 14 receptions, 52 yards, and a score. Puka Nacua, 20 targets, 15 receptions, 147 yards. Raz, man, talk to me a little bit about this game for Puka.
Okay, so listen, in this game, Puka was supposed to have like a rib or a stomach type situation going. He wasn't even supposed to play. Guy comes in, so I know a lot of people sat him. Guy comes in and he basically did what he did the last game. Another 10 plus targets, another over 100 yards. I mean, this guy is amazing. He basically is a clone of Cooper Kupp right now.
Yep.
And you basically got him almost for free.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's so funny? Somebody just sent me a trade right now as we speak. They want Puka Nacua from me, which I'm not trading. He's giving me Zay Jones and George Kittle. And it's tight end premium. But the thing is, Puka is hot. Puka is going to help you win a lot of games. You want to ride that hot streak right now.
Yep.
Even with not having a good tight end in this league. I have Pitts, which I drafted Pitts to be the guy, so he has to continue to be the guy. I'm not trading Puka unless it's a Godfather deal. You've seen me make deals for Puka, right?
I need a first for Puka right now.
Huh?
I said I need a first for Puka right now.
Absolutely. That's his value. Now, Zay Jones and George Kittle isn't bad, but it's not what I'm looking for. So for me, I won't do that deal. It's not bad, but I'm good. I'd rather have the points coming out of my tight end position, wide receiver position than tight end. But outside of this game, Kyren Williams also had 6 receptions for 48 yards and a receiving score. So this guy had over 30-something points in fantasy or high 20s. Amazing. 52 yards rushing, 48 receiving, 6 receptions, 2 scores. Kyren Williams, man, why are people scared of Kyren?
Well, me initially, I'm sitting here thinking that Cam Akers is still the starter. So Kyren Williams isn't somebody that they invested in. He's not somebody that they allowed to be on the field or do anything last year. So I'm not sure what the camp reports were, and maybe we should have paid more attention to that. But Cam Akers, it wasn't that he wasn't effective. You could say that Kyren is affects the game in different ways as far as being able to catch and run and do different things. But Kyren Williams is short and slow.
You know what
he's not a good mixture of doing great things in NFL. But hey,
yeah, Kyren is very slow. Kyren is very slow. Let's go ahead and move on to one of the last games of the slate, and that's the Cowboys and the Jets. Now, if you watch that game, it was kind of frustrating. I'm not going to lie. And you're trying to figure out, what's going on. Outside of Zach Wilson catching that touchdown, Zach Wilson did not look good He was, 3 interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. He should have been sacked 18 times, but he hung in there. But the Jets didn't run the ball well. Like Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall. What is your take on them? How do you think they play moving forward? Are you in on them or are you out?
I'm out on Dalvin Cook.
Okay.
I think Dalvin Cook is cooked.
Okay.
Unless they're bringing in another quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
I'm out on Cook because Cook doesn't do anything for them. Breece Hall is a guy that they're going to want to bring up. I think the one thing about Cook is they may use him still because they don't want to overuse Breece just yet because he just come off the injury and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But Breece is going to be the guy moving forward. If you have Cook, try to trade him. I actually traded for him earlier.
I totally feel you. It's like 1 or 2 games that we're not going to get into. Let's just go ahead and get into the waiver wire portion of the show, which is what everybody really came for. Quarterback wise, you have guys like Matthew Stafford, Gardner Minshew, who now could step in and be the guy if Anthony Richardson doesn't clear concussion protocol. Is there anybody on the waiver wire redraft wise that you're looking at?
If Dobbs is actually still if Dobbs is still available, that's somebody I'd be looking at. I know in a lot of our leagues that Dobbs is actually already gone, but yeah, Dobbs is somebody I would have an eye on.
Okay. Uptown Dre, appreciate you hopping on the stream, man. Please like it up, please share. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. A guy that I'm looking at is Baker Mayfield. If he's out there, through 2 weeks, 490 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns. The guy has looked lights out. And no INT. That's the biggest number. No turnovers. Knocking on wood. I hope that Baker Mayfield keeps it up. I was able to buy Baker Mayfield in the offseason for a 3rd-round pick, and today I flipped him for a 2nd and a 3rd.
Okay.
So that's pretty amazing. Uptown Dre says Tutu Atwell. We love some Tutu Atwell. As everybody's loving Puka, Atwell is there. He's still available. He's still available. And we're going to get to the receivers in just a minute. He continues to be, hey, Tommy, I'm going to give you somebody who I think that nobody's looking at.
Okay.
And that's Jake Browning. I talked about Joe Burrow earlier on. Jake Browning, he's going to be out there. He might not be good, but at the end of the day, a quarterback is a quarterback in a Superflex league. So Jake Browning could be a guy that you could scoop, and he's going to come in and play well. Like, I know that Joe Burrow is the man and this and that, but he's going to play. Look, I'm telling you right now, if Jake Browning plays on that Monday night game versus the Rams, he's going to come in and air the ball out. You're going to see Jamar Chase have his best game so far this season. Don't be surprised if you see Jamar Chase with 170 yards receiving. It's not that Jake Browning is just so great. Jake Browning can actually just play football right now. And Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
You know what? I'm with you to an extent, but my faith is in Burrow. So I think he's gonna be fine.
All right. Yeah. I think he's not. I think he's gonna miss the Monday night game. And then I think that if he can't get back to week 4, he'll be placed in IR. That's my thoughts. I think he's gonna be a guy that's gonna be available towards the end of the season. His availability and his play right now is just so bad and just so gruesome. And then he, re-aggravated that calf injury. So it's really
I think you're on the money here because I think this game is going to be telling. Reason being is because if they lose this game for any reason, they're thinking about next season. They're not thinking about this season. I mean, the players might be thinking about this season, but the organization is going to be like, hey, let's make sure he's healthy because they're thinking about next season. I mean, this season's almost potentially over, especially in that division.
All right, so let's go ahead and get to running backs. Running backs that have injuries, we already covered some of them. Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, David Montgomery, Jamal Williams, Jonathan Taylor still, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Gainwell, Jeff Wilson, Kendre Miller, Evan Hall, Salvon Ahmed, Chase Edmonds. If I did not mention your favorite RB or RB on your team, you should be thanking the Lord right now that you still have healthy running backs. Now, what you want to do is you want to go out there and you want to see who's out there. For me, my top running back to grab this week, if Kyron isn't there, is Jerome Ford. Now, I don't know what Jerome Ford does the rest of the thing, but the thing is volume is what you need in fantasy, right? And he's going to be able to get the ball. He's going to be able to get receptions and everything. He had a great performance yesterday, although the bulk of his yards did come from that 69-yard run. Any thoughts on Jerome Ford?
Yes. Listen, I love Jerome Ford. I think Jerome Ford is going to be at RB, high RB2 the rest of the season. So I'm all in. I think you go for that guy. If you're trying to win now, you go for that guy. You go hard too.
Okay, good deal, good deal. Who is the next guy on your list?
Next running back that I'm looking at, it's probably not going to be like a full week. Well, probably Zach Moss, because I'm thinking deeper, but in more shallow leagues, Zach Moss is balling right now. So that's somebody I want to be have on my team. That's next guy I'm looking for.
I just traded a second for Kyron Williams, and then I traded a third for Zach Moss. The guy now rethought his deal and said, hey, I better come grab this third right now. He doesn't know what Zach Moss is going to do.
Right.
And when I declined that deal that he sent me for Tank Dale, I went on and took that deal for a third. He went on and resent it. So, yeah, I think it's good value right now, especially needing running backs. I had 0 backs.
Right.
And I ended up with Kyron Williams and Zach Moss for second and third. I think those are great values for guys that could potentially be top 15 backs on any given week for right now until the main guys come back.
Yeah, and I would only be trying to trade a third if I thought that third was going to be late, because we're expecting JT to come back.
Yep.
So don't go so heavy on Zach Moss.
Right.
But yeah, Zach Moss the next guy.
My prediction is that JT has played his last game.
Oh,
cool. So if you're thinking like how I'm thinking,
okay,
then you want to go heavy Zach Moss. Let me read Uptown Dre's comment and we'll continue with the show. Uptown Dre says RB value is decreasing each year. Now more injuries occurring. Paydays will be few and far. I definitely agree with you. Thoughts on that, Raz?
I think what we're seeing, I agree. And I think what we're seeing is this preseason deal. There's so many people that's not really playing in preseason, not really giving it a go. They're trying to do that whole NBA, resting guys situation, and I don't think that works in the NFL. I think if you don't have a good startup, you're starting to see that these injuries are really hitting guys hard, and definitely in the running back area. So that's something to always watch. At this point, yeah, I'm taking running back is probably going to be the last group I target, and that's saying something.
Yeah, like for me, I've talked about it earlier on in the show. I don't really mess with running backs anymore, but I'm going to give you 3 names. Matt Breida. With Saquon Barkley being out, my prediction is anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. With Matt Breida being out there, Tony Jones, especially if Kendrick Miller isn't ready, and then Craig Reynolds. Out of these 3 guys, is there any one of them that you're interested in?
I don't trust Craig Reynolds because I don't think Detroit trusts Craig Reynolds. I am interested in Tony Jones because who else do they have? So I'm interested in Tony Jones for that fact. I mean, because their offense is starting to move with Derek Carr. So they should be getting to the red zone. Once they get to the red zone, outside of Taysom Hill, the next guy is Tony Jones. So
yeah.
Let's
and
go.
For me, I don't trust Craig Reynolds, but I'm going to tell you this. I like me some Zonovan McKnight. So that's going to be a guy that I'm targeting for free. Give me McKnight, and I don't want no parts of Craig Reynolds. That's just me. Now, wide receivers that are injured right now, you got Cooper Kupp, obviously Christian Watson, Deontay Johnson on IR, Jalen Waddle, concussion, Jacoby Myers, Brandon Cooks, Odell Beckham Jr., which I never trusted, Zay Jones, Darnell Mooney, Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, with all that being said, now I told you guys about Josh Reynolds. I told you guys about Josh Reynolds before that Thursday night game. If Josh Reynolds is still out there, that is crazy. Yes, he mentioned Kareem Hunt being available. Yes, definitely go pick up Kareem Hunt. I think he gets a job this week. I just hope it's not Cleveland for my Jerome because of my Jerome Ford shares. Even with Kareem Hunt, he's shown that he was not effective his last year in Cleveland. So temper your expectations if you are picking him up. But Razman, Josh Reynolds, Tutu Atwell, Tank Dale, your guy.
Oh, yeah.
Out of these 3 guys, man, who do you trust the most?
Out of the 3 guys, I'm going to trust Tutu the most.
Okay.
And the reason is because of the quarterback play, for one. Secondly is when Kupp comes back, Tutu is going to still have the same role. Now, Puka Nacua may not. I think he's still going to be on the field. But this is the role that Tutu's supposed to play. This was the role he was always playing to play, so he was always going to be part of this this offense. So I believe that moving forward, you should be able to expect similar or a little lesser numbers from Tutu. So that makes him my ad.
Okay. Another guy that I talked about early on in the show is Robert Woods. What impressed me most about Robert Woods so far in this small sample size is that he has 19 targets in 2 games for 12 receptions, 131 yards. He's a guy that's not scoring touchdowns right now, but when he starts to score touchdowns, he's going to look like Adam Thielen. Thielen just gets like, 5, 6, 7 receptions, 66 yards on the score, and boom, 20 points. So I believe that Robert Woods is somebody you can target, especially in Dynasty. In redraft, you have way better options. But in Dynasty, Robert Woods is a pretty good pickup. Next 2 guys that I have on the list is Treylon Burks and Jaden Reed. Who do you like better and why?
I'm gonna this is gonna surprise you. I'm gonna say I like Reed better because I don't know what's going on with Christian Watson.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, it makes him the 2 out there, and Jordan Love is looking pretty good. And I'm a Titans fan, so that's saying a lot.
Yep. I mean, Jaden Reed, 2 touchdowns last week. He was targeted 8 times. We talked about it early on in the show. He led the team in targets. That's what I'm looking at. Forget the numbers. Forget the touchdowns. When you're leading the team in targets, that means that Jordan Love trusts you. He trusted you over Romeo Doubs.
Because Dobbs is a big slot and Reed is more of an outside receiver. So if their offense that's what their offense does is take advantage of outside receiving more so than inside receiving. So if that's the case, then Jaden Reed should more so naturally be the guy or the go-to guy over Romeo Doubs. I just think that Dobbs was the guy with experience in week 1. But I still think, saying Romeo Doubs is pretty good. So we'll see a back and forth thing until we see Christian Watson come back.
I have 2 more names for you on my receivers list. Adam Thielen or Marvin Jones. The consistent Adam Thielen or the Marvin Mims that had 2 receptions for 114 yards and a score. 2 receptions.
You said Thielen or Mims?
Thielen or Mims.
Mims. A whole day, 100%, twice on Sunday.
Give me Thielen. You know why?
Give me Mims.
Thielen is getting targets. Mims, 2 receptions for 113 yards. In redraft, we're talking about redraft here. I don't know if I can trust Mims to stick Mims in my lineup and pray he catches 2 bombs and 1.
I got 2 words and 1 word for Thielen, and that's hamstring. I do not trust this old legs guy. You know what I'm saying? He's old, and I think that Mims is going to be the guy that's. Listen, Judy was on the field, Sutton was on the field, and Mims was balling. So that's the guy that I want to go with.
Busted plays. I agree with you, Uptown Dre. You can't trust Mims right now on busted plays. For those of us that watch the game, we saw, us Washington fans saw how Mims got those 2 completions.
We watched that game together.
Hey, my claim with a guy like Thielen, right? Even though it's hamstring this, hamstring that, right?
Yep.
You're going to be able to get him for less fab or less of a waiver than Mims. Folks are going to go Mims crazy. Right? Okay. In fab leagues. And you're going to get Thielen for $1 or $2, and he's going to outproduce. I guarantee you that Thielen outproduces Mims next week.
Listen, maybe so. I just don't think that dude lasts. That's all.
Yeah, long term. Of course. I mean, with all these old guys, you've discounted. You say, oh, no old guys, no old guys. The old guys are the ones that are balling right now. Look at Mike Evans.
I'm not throwing old guys away. I told everybody about Mike Evans. For one, Mr. I told you so. I told people about Mike Evans. And the other thing is, Thielen, I think overuse causes him injuries. He's been dealing with that the past couple of seasons. So,
all right,
yeah.
So we're gonna end the show with this last segment here. It's the tight ends to pick up. The hottest tight end to pick up that's definitely still on your waiver wire right now is possibly Hunter Henry. Yep. My goodness, in 2 games, this guy has 13 targets. 11 receptions, 108 yards, and 2 scores. He's averaging 16.9 points per game, and that's just in regular PPR. When you factor in tight end premium, you're talking about 18 to 20. When you factor in super tight end premium, you're talking about 22 points a game. And in most leagues, Hunter Henry is the number 1 tight end in fantasy right now, depending on your scoring. Grab you some Hunter Henry. Is there any guy that you're looking at, Raz?
I'm also looking at Ertz if he's available in your leagues.
Yep.
Ertz isn't dead. Ertz is still alive. So Ertz is still a very capable tight end. But yeah, I agree. Hunter Henry, number one.
Yeah, I mean, Ertz is number 3 on my list. He's averaging 9.9 points a game. That's solid. And then in PPR, I mean, in tight end premium, even more. Another guy I'm targeting is Jake Ferguson. Right now, he hasn't done he hasn't done too much. 5 receptions, 22 yards on the score. He hasn't done too much, but guess what? He's coming. He's on his way. Jake Ferguson is going to continue to get targets, and he continues to get targets in that offense. It just hasn't really clicked yet, but it's coming. Right. Jake Ferguson is the guy that you can possibly let pass through waivers. You can just grab him for free, put him on your bench. When he catches fire, he will do some damage. I'm going to give you one more name. Taysom Hill is a guy that you can grab, and he might pay dividends. If you're looking for a desperate tight end, especially in dynasty leagues, the only tight end possibly still out there is Smite and maybe Taysom Hill. If he gets you a goal line carry, then he's getting you some big points. Let's go ahead and answer this last question and close out the show. Hey, what's good, Cody? Appreciate you hopping on the show. Please like, please subscribe. Cody says, hey, guys, what's up? I got to offer Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk, and a third this year for Brian Robinson. Do you take it in Dynasty? Yes. I'm going to let Raz answer because I know what I'm going to say.
Yes, I'm taking that deal. It's a no-brainer.
Except, and look, I love Brian Robinson. I'm a Commanders fan, so you know I love me some Brian Robinson. But this is an amazing deal. You're getting Ayuk, who just had a bad game and got hurt. And people are forgetting who Brandon Ayuk is. Brandon Ayuk for Brian Robinson is more than enough. You're getting Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy, and a third?
Yeah. Man,
you smash accept, and you laugh all the way to the bank.
Absolutely.
That's an amazing deal for you. I love this deal for you. Uptown Dre says both are solid. I have Andrews and Kmet also looking at Hill. Yeah, grab Hill. Hill will be out there for free. Don't put no claims in for Hill now. I'm not telling you to do that. Just grab him after waivers clear. Raz, I'm gonna give you the last word, and we'll go ahead and close out the show.
Okay, listen, I will say this. Since you brought up Taysom Hill, I'm gonna say if you are in a best ball league and Taysom Hill is out there, please go and get him. You know, unlike the other leagues, spend fab on him. He is a secret weapon in a best ball league because the thing about Taysom Hill is you never know when to start him. In a best ball league, he's just money, free money.
Well, guys, I had to play my music in the background, and the music was acting crazy. So forget the music. You guys are listening to Dynasty Overload, a fantasy podcast. I appreciate you guys for hopping on, both on the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel, as well as the Dynasty Overload YouTube channel. So you guys make sure you guys show some love to Dynasty Overload, going over to that side and subscribe to that, subscribe to this, subscribe here, there, and everywhere. And also check us out on Apple, Dynasty Overload, a fantasy podcast. We will catch you guys on that next episode, and we out.
Peace.